Hey there, this is Mr. Icarus, and welcome to yet another edition of Doom Mod Madness. This time round, we are checking out Psychophobia, a total conversion mod that makes liberal usage of the features provided by the GZ Doom source port engine. If you're not familiar with GZ Doom, it's something that essentially allows mappers and modders to break the traditional limits of vanilla Doom, allowing rooms above rooms, which is something you can't normally do. You can import models, have fancier lighting, textures, sloped surfaces, and you can even indulge in fancy bits of scripting. And Psychophobia certainly attempts to take advantage of all of those features, albeit with extremely mixed results. But before I get into any of that, you're probably wondering what the setup of Psychophobia is. Well, it's pretty simple. You are a prisoner. You are breaking out of prison. And then you are pretty much killing everything that gets in your way. There you go. You have now explored the deep lore that is Psychophobia's story. So, with that swiftly out of the way, how does it actually play? Well, it plays like a bag of dicks. It's one of those mods that I have been desperately trying to cover for quite a long time, if I'm gonna be honest. But every time I attempt it, this kind of red haze just comes up in my vision, and then when it clears, I've somehow managed to smash everything in my room, and I have to, buy new monitors and keyboards and replace a few PC parts. What I'm trying to say is, I think I've got a few issues with Psychophobia. Thankfully, the issues here are pretty front and center, so they're going to be pretty easy for me to explain, chief of which being the opening level. This is quite possibly one of the worst opening levels that I have experienced in a good long while. And even then, it still does the job that an opening level is supposed to do, which is give you a little bit of insight into how the rest of the experience is going to be. To kind of understand why this section is so bad, you kind of have to come from it from the perspective of someone who has never seen this section of level before. You come out of these doors, and the first thing you're going to get is a rocket assault from across the way. You're going to get peppered by the chain gunner to the left, and after maybe 2 or 3 deaths, you'll think, maybe I should just hide behind this imported 3D model of a pile of pipes. That'll shield me, only to find the peanut gallery directly behind you will eagerly fill you full of bullets in place of the chain gunner. Does this sound like a frustrating sequence of events? It certainly was for me. And the thing is, it goes further than that. Because those rockets that you're shielding yourself from, which you shouldn't be able to get through those pipes, do unfortunately reach you every now and again thanks to either splash damage or just the rocket itself clipping through the 3D model. I can imagine on paper it might have seemed like a good idea, but in practice, oh man, it's wretched. It's the kind of experience that can easily put someone off the entire mod, and that was me. That was me many moons ago trying to make heads or tails of what the hell was wrong with this goddamn mod. At the very least, I wanted to see what the entirety of the first level had to offer, and truthfully, it doesn't really get much better. Its flaws only multiply. I'd say that one of the biggest problems with this opening level by far is the overwhelming amount of backtracking that it asks you to do just to make a simple amount of progress. For example, I've flipped a switch all the way over in the control center, which was on the other side of the rocket courtyard, to open up this part of the cell block. And you'll just move down it, mowing down the enemies in a big long room full of not much else, in order to grab yourself no, not a key, but to flip another switch. And then you'll run into strangeness like this, where the enemies can't be killed or activated until you move through a certain invisible barrier, which is just weird, right? I mean, what is going on with that? It's strange. So you get down here, you flip the button, the alarm goes off. Wouldn't you know it, that means you're gonna have to trudge all the way back over to the control center to turn off the alarm, to come all the way back over to these cell blocks here so you can use a key card in the kiosk that now has a force field up in it. And tedium is something you don't want in an opening map. You don't want to have a lot of busy work. You don't want to have something that feels rote and ultimately, the greatest sin of all, boring. I don't know about you, but having to swing between a state of constant irritation and boredom is not a good introduction to any mod, or any game for that matter. But against all odds, here we have Psychophobia, trying its damnedest to incorporate both of those elements. It's a bold move. It's a bold move, I'll give it that. And one that nearly defeated me, I have to say. One that was giving me every possible excuse to just say, you know what, I've got better stuff to do with my time. But the unfortunate fact is that this is Doom Mod Madness, and I don't just stop at the first level of a shit show. We need to go deeper. Welcome to the second level of Psychophobia, a map that I genuinely spent a lot of time wondering whether or not it was supposed to be a garbage dump on account of all of the dumpsters and just the general piles of trash kicking around the place. But it turns out it's actually yet another prison after escaping from the, I guess, hyper-max security prison of the first level. And this level expands on a few aspects, namely the weaponry and the bestiary of the mod, but speaking specifically on the subject of the weaponry, I just feel like the whole 3D model choice was a bit of a mistake, because this is a minigun. This is a weapon that traditionally inspires awe whenever I use it in most mods. It's typically the king of Dakar, but here, it's just a high-pitched whine and a spinning barrel. It feels like I'm firing an airsoft gun. And for the love of God, have you seen what they've done to the super shotgun? The boomstick of boomsticks, one of the most iconic weapons from Doom 2, and now it's this very, very disappointing model and reload animation. It's something that causes you to pause for a moment and wonder, did they think that looked good? I think another thing that annoys me about the weapons more than it should is how many of them you end up juggling after a certain point. I mean, this is only the second level, and I've already got a weapon category that's got 3 different weapons on it: the pistol, Uzi, and an MP5. You've got this category, which includes the assault rifle and a minigun. You've got the shotgun category, which includes the super shotgun, a lever action, and a pump. And it's just like, what? Why do you need all of these? I know choice is great on paper, but when it comes to the heat of battle and you're having to try to cycle through 3 different types of weapon on one category just to find the one you've actually got friggin' bullets for or have accurately reloaded at that one particular time, you don't want to have to deal with that shit. It reminds me of that age-old phrase, sometimes less is more, and I can't help but feel that Psychophobia would have massively benefited from that philosophy, because it spreads itself thin, if I'm going to be honest. The weaponry, some categories it does work out okay. I mean, the pump action shotgun is a favorite. The MP5 in one of the other categories is pretty nice, got a beefy sound to it. The assault rifle's even okay, but when it comes down to the heavy hitters, the things that you really need to nail, the satisfaction and sensation of firing, the things like miniguns and rocket launchers and super shotguns, I'm afraid Psychophobia just falls flat in its face. At this point, you may or may not be wondering how many maps Psychophobia actually has. Well, this particular episode features 8 maps. And you may notice that I said this particular episode, meaning there's more than one. And no, you can't make me play the second episode. I ain't gonna do it. Not anytime soon, and not without liberal amounts of alcohol coursing through my veins, because when you get down to the nitty-gritty of the Psychophobia experience, this is a really goddamn exhausting mod to play. For me, it's mostly a structural issue. The way the levels are designed and the way the encounters within them are placed, it just feels like Psychophobia at nearly every juncture tries to rob itself of forward momentum. If anything, this is a mod that I would certainly not recommend playing in one big sitting, because you'll probably end up exactly in the same position that I ended up in, which was, is it done yet? How far do I have to go? How many more buttons do I have to press? How many more keys on the arse end of the base am I gonna have to collect? How many more ambushes am I gonna have to waste my bullets on? You know what really kills me though about Psychophobia is that scattered throughout this episode are these little diamonds in the rough, just these little moments that'll make you stop and go, yeah, that's actually pretty neat. That's not too bad at all. In fact, that's actually kind of fun. Like this little section where you're first introduced to an enemy that I'm pretty sure is one of the bosses from Quake 2, which does become a recurring enemy from this point onwards. And the structure of that little encounter was fun. It was short, it was sweet, it was to the point. Nice idea, pretty good execution. But for everything else surrounding it, it's alright idea, really iffy execution. I think one of the things I've been trying to bear in mind during the course of this video is that Psychophobia ain't no spring chicken. This is a mod that is a decade old. It released in 2008, and I have to acknowledge that back in the day, all of the things it's playing around with were probably brand spanking new. The gee whiz factor was probably extremely strong with this one, but the truth is that time has not been kind. If anything though, you could probably hold up Psychophobia as a fantastic example of what not to do when creating this sort of mod, when taking advantage of certain elements of GZ Doom. And I'd like to think that in the intervening decade, a lot of mods have managed to do a heck of a lot more with a hell of a lot less. But anyway, at this point I am comprehensively sick and tired of talking about Psychophobia. It's as exhausting to analyze as it is to play, and unless you really enjoy a disjointed set of levels that become more and more incoherent as you get further into the campaign, unless you enjoy fighting against an extended bestiary of enemies that doesn't seem to be placed with any rhyme or reason, unless you really enjoy disappointing feeling weapons, then I'm not sure I'd recommend this. No siree Bob. So yeah, there you go, Psychophobia, top to bottom shit show, aged like milk. I don't want to ever play it again. If you're interested, the link, as usual, is in the description below. While I'm at it, I'd like to give a great big thank you to my wonderful patrons over on Patreon. Thank you so very much for supporting the channel and for helping to make content like this possible. If you're interested in lending a hand, maybe snagging yourself some sweet patron bonuses such as your name in the credits or even early access to editions of Doom Mod Madness, then all you need to do is follow the link to my Patreon page, which is also in the description below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know what you thought in the comments, and feel free to suggest any mods you'd like to see me cover in future episodes of Doom Mod Madness. This has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.